In this particular video, we will discuss the adjective clauses, right? And let's take examples directly. So, we have seen in the previous video on noun clause that the noun clause basically replaces a noun, right? So I gave you the example that Mary is right, correct? So if I replace Mary with something, then I would say whatever, right? Whatever Mary says, right, is right. So basically we have replaced the noun Mary with whatever Mary says, and because, so whatever Mary says, this is how it will be. Whatever, so this, because this clause is replacing a noun, is acting like a noun, we call this as the noun clause, right? Similarly, going by the name, the adjective clause should replace an adjective, right? It should replace an adjective, correct? And that is why we call it as the adjective clause. Let take an example. A young Hindu militant shot Mahatma Gandhi. So this is the sentence, right? A young Hindu militant is basically the subject of the sentence. The verb is shot, and the object of the verb is Mahatma Gandhi. This sentence has only one independent clause, right? Now let's go ahead and add something to it. A young Hindu militant who is a member of Hindu Mahasabha shot Mahatma Gandhi. So this particular addition is, it says a young Hindu militant, and then you have the verb here, shot Mahatma Gandhi. Something has been added, and that addition is who is a member of the Hindu Mahasabha. Now, this is a clause. Why do I call it as a clause? Because it has a verb. It has a verb, and this verb belongs to who? This verb shot belongs to the young Hindu militant. We have seen the example, right? A young Hindu militant shot Mahatma Gandhi. So this verb V2, right, belongs to the subject. So I can say this is the subject S1 and this is the verb V1. Then this basically verb V2 belongs to who? And who refers to a Hindu militant. So, who is a member of Hindu Mahasabha is a dependent clause. Why? Because it is not giving me complete meaning. And because it is qualifying a noun, which is a militant, I can say that it is nothing but an adjective. The new element here is who is a member of Hindu Mahasabha. This new element is a clause because it has a subject who, which points, so this is this subject who points to the militant. So this who is nothing but the militant, right? So which points at the noun militant, and a verb is, this new element has its own pair of subject and verb. It is called a dependent clause because it can stand on its own. It can stand, that's why it's a dependent clause. He who abuses others, can we call this a sentence? He who abuses others, can you call this a sentence? No, you will not. Suppose if I say he who works hard, right? He who works hard succeeds in life, correct? He who works hard succeeds in life. So you have two things here. He, subject S1, and the verb is V1. He succeeds in life. And who is he? The one who works hard. So here we have V2, and this V2 has subject S2. This S2 refers to he. So, he who abuses others, can we call this a sentence? No, we cannot. This sounds incomplete because it is incomplete. It has a subject he followed by an adjective clause who abuses others. Why do we call this an adjective clause? Because it modifies a pronoun. Here, who is a member of a Hindu Mahasabha modifies the noun militant. It's a modifier after all, right? This is nothing but a modifier. The militant is getting modified by a clause. And because the militant is a noun, I would call this as a modifier, which is an adjective clause. So let's complete this now. He who abuses others abuses his own self. Now it becomes a meaningful idea. He abuses his own self. And who is he? The one who abuses others. This makes complete sense because it has a subject he and a verb abuser. So this is S1 and this is V1, right? Similarly, this is V2 and this is S2, but this is a dependent idea. right? So every clause will come up with its own pair of subject and verb. This pairing must always be there. So whenever you see a clause, you must quickly look for the subject and the verb. If it's a main clause, then it would be independent idea. If it's a dependent one, then you will have something like this, the one that we see here. An adjective clause modifies a noun or a pronoun. That is the reason why we keep on calling it a subjective clause, adjective clause. Here the adjective clause modifies the pronoun he, right? Adjective clauses are usually joined by a relative pronoun. This was a relative pronoun who. Why do we call it as relative? Because it relates to a noun. Who relates to a pronoun. So adjective clauses are usually joined by a relative pronoun such as who, whom, which, that. In certain cases, we might use a subordinating conjunction or a conjunctive adverb. Since the adjective clauses are often joined by a relative pronoun, we also call, so adjective clauses are also called as relative clauses, right? Because they are joined by relative pronouns. So here, who is a member of Hindu Mahasabha is also a relative clause and also can be called as the adjective clause, right? Let's not get into the nitty-gritties of this. You must understand what do we mean by adjective clauses. Here we will take some examples of adjective clause here, right? And look at this. He prayed for him. So we can say, here we have an example. He prayed for those who were very close to him, right? So who refers to what? Those, right? So he prayed for those. And who were those who were very close to him? So this is basically the relative clause or the adjective clause, right? He prayed for those, main clause, and who were very close to him, the adjective clause or relative clause, connected to the main clause by the relative pronoun who. So this is basically connecting the main clause. The adjective clause thus acts like a modifier to the pronoun those, right? He prayed for those, and who are those? Who were very close to him. So this basically those, the pronoun those is getting modified by this adjective clause, right? It's a pronoun, so it's an adjective clause. He came to an orchard where ripe pomegranates could be plucked, right? So here we have where, so this where is modifying what? The orchard. He came to an orchard, main clause, where ripe pomegranates could be plucked, adjective clause connected to the main clause by the conjunctive adverb where and modifying the non-orchard, right? He came to a place, and which place? A place where ripe pomegranates could be plucked, right? So here we have the main clause. He came to an orchard, and this noun is further getting modified by a adjective clause, right? Where ripe pomegranates could be plucked. Then we have the third one. It says here, there comes a time when we all feel sad. There comes a time. Time is basically the noun. And this noun is further getting modified by a clause. Why? Because we have the subject we and feel is the verb, right? So there comes a time when we all feel sad. You could have also said there comes a bad time, right? You could say there comes a bad time. This bad time can be replaced. This is an adjective, right? This adjective can be replaced with an adjective clause. There comes a time when we all feel sad. There comes a bad time. Bad is an adjective. When we all feel sad is also acting like an adjective. But because it's a clause, we call it as adjective clause, right? Adjective clauses can be classified as restrictive or non-restrictive, right? By restrictive, we mean adjective clauses that provide essential information. And by non-restrictive, we mean adjective clauses that provide non-essential. So please understand this. The man who stole my car is here in the shop. So the man is the subject S1, right? And is right here in the shop is V1. So this is S1 and this is V1. The man is right. So the man, and I can block this, the man is right here in the shop. This basically becomes the adjective clause modifying the man. And why clause? Because it has the verb stole and V2, and it has a subject V S2, which is referring to the man. But why we haven't put the comma? Because I cannot sufficiently identify the man, and therefore I must remove the comma. The man is right here in the shop. What kind of man? The man who stole my car. And because this gives, without this particular portion, I would not be able to identify the man. And therefore, I must remove the commas. This is essential modifier. On the other hand, if I say John, who stole my car, is right here in the shop, this becomes extra information. Why? Because the name John is enough. The name John is enough. And therefore, I can put this in comma. John is right here in the shop. or John, who stole my car, adjective clause. In both the cases we have adjective clause. In one case we have put comma because this information is enough and therefore this becomes extra. In this case this information is not enough and therefore this becomes necessary, right? So adjective clauses are also known as relative clauses, and these relative clauses may come in commas if they are non-essential, and if they are essential then they might not come in commas, right? This is all about adjective clauses.